Hello, hello. I'm Shivan Sarna. It's so good to have everybody here. This is Dr. Allison Siebecker. Just a quick behind the scenes. Hi, Dr. Siebecker.
Hi.
I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for being here. Today's session is why your SIBO isn't getting better and what to do about it. This is a day where we're going to be talking about the pieces of the puzzle you need to put together your program so you can finally be well from SIBO, manage it, prevent relapse, the whole 9 yards. It is a day about hope. Healing your SIBO and getting your life back and getting on with it already. I bet you're ready to get on with it already. I know I was when I first talked to Dr. Siebecker about creating this course. So right now there are millions, I mean, seriously, millions of people suffering with small intestine bacterial overgrowth who aren't getting the help they need. So, and maybe you're one of them. I mean, that's obviously why you're here. So you might suspect SIBO. We call you SIBO suspicious, but you can't get that diagnosis. Your doctor doesn't know about it, doesn't want to learn about it, maybe even says SIBO doesn't exist. Yes, there are people that say that. Makes me crazy. Or you do have that diagnosis, but the treatment is freaking you out and you don't want to do it because you're not sure or you're scared or you can't afford it. I get it. Or maybe you've tried treatments and they just didn't work. And maybe you can't afford to work with a naturopath or an alternative practitioner or someone who actually knows about SIBO. I know it is frustrating, but don't worry. Again, today is about hope and answers. Or maybe you already have, like I had, shelled out a ton of money and did not get the results that you wanted. I spent over $10,000. I know that sounds insane, but it's true. Trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And turns out it was SIBO. And I have a story about how I had a false diagnosis for 18 months. So that's what made me write the book. That's what made me ask Dr. Siebecker to create this course. So I've been there, and you're going to learn in a few minutes about how Dr. Siebecker has been there as well. And we want to get you to a different place. You might be eating a severely restricted diet at this point. It's not uncommon for people with SIBO to get to a point where they're eating only 4 or 5 foods. Mine, oranges, carrots, and white potatoes. I was like basically down to 3. And I literally had a boyfriend at the time. At one point, when I was like, it's clear we're going to stay together, whatever, I literally just said, oh, by the way, food makes me sick. Like, when you're interviewing each other and getting to know each other, like that was my blanket statement. He still remembers it to this day. Anyway, and I hope you can't relate, but if even water makes you bloated and the diarrhea and the constipation and the gas and the pain and the brain fog, I mean, it can literally feel like it felt for me, which is that SIBO has stolen your life. I felt like I had a full-time job on top of my full-time job. And I used to call it my part-time job, but seriously inside, I felt like it was my full-time job. It is a vicious cycle, and we are here to help you get out of that. So if any of this sounds like you, this webinar is going to be extremely perfect for you. There are so many people stuck on what is called the SIBO Ferris wheel of doom. This is a behind the scenes term that we use. And when you're stuck on it, and you're going around and around, it might sometimes get a little bit better, but it always gets worse again. And then it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and it is devastating. And darn it, you want to get off this Ferris wheel and go see your life and get on with your mission, whatever that is, be with your family, be well, not have SIBO like haunt you day and night. Believe me. Ugh. So today's training is going to help you to do just that. You're going to get your life back. You're going to gain a deeper understanding of SIBO so that you can take that control back, make educated choices for your own health, and actually get better and know what to do next. I know this because the framework we're going to be sharing with you has helped thousands and thousands of people, literally thousands of people. Now, it isn't my framework. It was developed by 3 of the leading doctors in SIBO. The incredible Dr. Mark Pimentel from Cedars-Sinai, the wonderful and impeccable, credentialed, and just heart and soul in the right place, and true SIBO expert, world-renowned Dr. Allison Siebecker, and Dr. Stephen Sandberg-Lewis, who we love and we call the teacher's teacher, who's been a naturopathic gastroenterologist for over 40 years. And most importantly, this framework is going to give you that much needed hope. And okay, it's good to have hope, but you need results, and you are going to get them. So that's what today is all about. And I can talk to you about how amazing this framework is all day and how it's helped me regain my health and my life. But I'd rather just bring on Dr. Siebecker and have her show you. Quickly before we do that, I just want to share that you really are in the right place. And I know Ramona is here. Thank you for being here. Tina says she paid $6,500 for a 3 to 4 month course for one naturopathic doctor who specializes in gut health, and probably about $1,500 previously to a jack of all trades naturopath to help me get well. I'd do anything to get well, even though I truly could not afford it either. Thanks to you, oh, that's me, and Dr. Siebecker for putting on this course. Now my SIBO is gone, and I hope it stays gone. I do too. But I just wanted to tell you and Dr. Siebecker that I think you're both awesome. Thank you, Tina. We think you're awesome too. And one more from Joe. Thank you, Shivan, for making the SIBO Roadmap course available. After watching the video, I wish I had Dr. Siebecker as my doctor, don't we all? She's methodical and has a path to follow. My treatment so far has been a jumbled mess, and that has been with the assistance of a well-known SIBO expert. That breaks my heart, by the way. I think if I'm going to treat this, I'm going to have to follow Dr. Siebecker's roadmap myself. Treat, then test, treat, then test. It's the only way. Thank you so much for making the roadmap available. Lots of good information. And Dr. Siebecker makes me feel like there is a way forward. No matter where you are in your SIBO journey, you're in the right place. Whatever aspect of SIBO you need help with, the testing, the diet, the treatments, keeping it in remission, dealing with the symptoms, we've got it covered for you. You don't want to waste time or money. I so get that. I spent so much money trying to heal my SIBO. I spent a fortune even just trying to figure out what SIBO was. I didn't have a name for it. Remember, I've had this since I was 5. And I genuinely wish I had just had this framework back then, which is why when I discovered and realized that it even existed, we went to work to bring this to you. This is not a one-size-fits-all treatment that only works for some people. That's what everyone else in this world is doing. Or they're taking what Dr. Siebecker has been doing for years and they don't know the ins and outs of it, which is why she has a class for professionals, which is great. If you're a pro, we do have that for you as well. But like, you're really working with an originator here with like rubber meets the road. So this is totally different. It's a step-by-step framework that works no matter where you are starting, no matter your symptoms, no matter how many treatments or protocols you've tried and failed in the past. No more guessing. So today we're going to talk about why your SIBO isn't getting better and what you can do about it. We're going to cover a lot. So I'm going to ask you to give yourself the gift of 100% focus. I know that is hard. Close out all of those other tabs. Put your phone on silent. Can you do that? Like, that is, I know, a major, major ask. Grab a pen and some paper to take notes and dedicate this time to you and your healing. You deserve to get well. You deserve this time to focus on your health and your needs. And this really is a rare opportunity. We do not do this all the time. So I don't want you to waste a minute of it. And while you're closing out those tabs and staring at your phone going, can I really put it on silent? Can I? Should you? Yes, 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 do it. Do it. Sorry. Put it on silent. You know, the irony is like my phone is on silent, but like I'll probably get some weird ring coming through. I don't want to talk about who this information, I do want to talk about who this information is not for while you're closing those windows and struggling to turn your phone off. First up, this is not for doctors or practitioners. Doctors, we have another course just for you. This is a place for people with SIBO, people like you and me, regular folks, but this is not a place for people who want a miracle cure. This is not for people who are unwilling to put in some work and effort for their own healing. This isn't for people who are unwilling to open their minds to new ideas. You know, some things are going to go against the grain perhaps, or some things are going to be different, or unless you understand it, you might be like, oh, that sounds terrible. What, an antibiotic? What? I don't know. You know, we'll explain everything. And herbs or the elemental diet, there's all kinds of options. If you're like that, if you're like closed, this webinar will not help you. No amount of information will help you until you are ready. And I understand that. You have to put up forth the effort, but with right attitude. I know that's a little confrontational, but I think we all can agree that that's true. But if you are ready, let me tell you how happy I am that you are here. This is my mission. This is Dr. Siebecker's mission. This is our team's mission, is to help you. Who is Dr. Siebecker? She is a highly sought after specialist, and she isn't taking on new patients right now. She's actually working on her book. I'm very excited. I can't wait until it's out. but learning to heal, treat, and beat SIBO is her life's work, and she's brilliant, and you're going to love her. Today, she's going to be sharing a ton of her most valuable information with you. It's free. Behind the scenes, we call this gold. That is a gift. Seriously, we do. We call it gold. She'll be teaching you about the big mistakes and misconceptions that hold people from healing their SIBO, these blocks to healing. Then, if you're ready to take the next step, we do have an opportunity to do so at the end of the presentation, so that you can, get into the course and find out, if this is going to help you, which I know it will. If that all sounds good to you, then let's get going. Quickly, here's my story. And I know you have yours, and I can't wait to hear about it. I've had digestive diseases. Okay, I'm going to restate that. I have had digestive dis-ease since I was 5. At 5, I didn't say to myself, you have a digestive disease, Shivan. No, but I was extremely, extremely uncomfortable. And my mother and father were worried about me at 5. And I remember, because I wasn't going every day. And this is the first time I ever felt shame. It's the first moment I ever recall having shame in my life. I was like, why are they asking about me going to the bathroom? Like, first of all, it was like little bratty, like, that's none of your beeswax. I'm 5. And the other, I was like, oh, wait, is something wrong with me? Like, what's up? It was a really profound moment. So I've been on TV for 23 years on HSN. If you're a TV shopper, then you know, you've probably seen me. And in about 2015, occasionally I would get asked on, an email or some way through some social media, if I was okay, or if I was pregnant. And which the pregnant one was fine, because they were like, oh, you're glowing. When is the baby due? And I'm like, oh my gosh, you don't want to have that question asked to you when it is not a pregnancy. Believe me. So, I'd always make light of it and say, oh, it's my lunch. Haha. But it was really upsetting, because I was supposed to be this aspirational TV personality. And in this country, having, flat abs is like an ultimate sort of most aspirational scenario. But anyway, I would have taken a bloated tummy if I felt better, but it was a combination. I was not doing great. I had a lack of energy. My brain fog was horrible. I had always been a very healthy eater, like legit. I had been into health food since I was 15 years old. But even the foods that I come to rely on to, make me well and be my partners in life weren't working for me. And going to Ayurvedic physicians, acupuncturists, rolfers, uh, steroid shots. I mean, you name it, I did it, because I was on this quest. I didn't feel well. I needed to feel well. I had this big job, this big career, this big life. And they just kept telling me it was just IBS. Can anybody relate to that? And yes, they offered me an antidepressant, and they told me to run 3 miles. And it's all in the book, Healing SIBO, where I tell you the story about my extremely discouraging get started story. Well, finally, a girlfriend asked me if I had heard of this weird thing called SIBO, and that it sounded like what I had. And so it was a huge light bulb moment, but that was only the beginning. Just getting that test was a struggle. Then finding a doctor who knew what my test results meant was another hurdle. Then I started trying treatments. I spent thousands and thousands of dollars on supplements and prescriptions. I tried every single diet possible. And I just got so frustrated, and I was so hungry, frankly. I couldn't eat out. Traveling was a nightmare. I was not like enjoying my life. I was just trying to get through my life. And I'm sure some of you can relate to that. It's extremely, extremely upsetting. And I wasn't really getting any better. I thought that learning that I actually had a diagnosis of SIBO was going to open up all these doors. And it's a strange feeling to be relieved that you have a diagnosis. It's weird, isn't it? Like, oh, finally I have SIBO. Like, why should we be relieved to finally have a diagnosis? It's this weird grieving process. It's which, if you know what I'm talking about, it's like, now the work begins, which is a whole nother process. Finally, I did get that appointment with Dr. Siebecker. I had been haunting her website, and she was doing some research at the time, wasn't seeing patients, and then she opened up her schedule, and I must have booked like one every 2 weeks. She not only healed me, but she educated me about the condition that I had. And with understanding came empowerment, and that's when the healing came. So I started being able to eat again. I didn't have to wear the shapewear on TV. My energy came back. No one was calling in to congratulate me on my pending, giving birth. I travel, I sort of within this, environment these days. Food doesn't make me scared. I don't waste a lot of mental space on, where is the closest public restroom when I do go out. So this process has worked for me. And because I know it works and because it has worked for thousands of other people, we call it the algorithm. And it is the basis of our SIBO Recovery Roadmap and what you're going to learn from today. Now, you should have a copy of the SIBO Recovery Roadmap. And if you don't, I will email you one. And this works because it's customizable to fit your unique case, because every case of SIBO is its own special snowflake. Even if you feel like you're in the most incurable, tough case out there, this can help. So Dr. Siebecker is going to be focusing on the mistakes that people make, the why of why your SIBO isn't getting better. So while you're watching today, I want you to jot down anything that resonates with you. If you hear something you shouldn't be doing and think, shoot, I've been doing that all wrong, or something that you should be doing, write it down. I know it's painful to recognize our mistakes, but it is so powerful. It's how we learn and grow. So let's turn it over to Dr. Siebecker now and let's get started. We're going to start screen sharing.
All right. Hi, everyone. Again, or for people who've just come in, thank you so much, Shivan, for sharing your wonderful story. Well, yeah, I mean, it had bad parts, but then it has a happy ending. Okay, so I'm very excited to share with you some of the big mistakes and pitfalls that I see and have seen as a clinician. As you may or may not know, my passion is helping people with SIBO heal and get their life back. Like Shivan, I have struggled with SIBO myself, also starting when I was 5. Shivan and I have that in common. We both got it when we were 5, didn't have it beforehand, but it feels like basically our whole lives. So I really know what it's like. And I know what it's like from both the patient perspective and then the practitioner perspective. And I really want to help you. So let's get into it. The first thing I want to do is show you the algorithm. This is what we base the entire SIBO Recovery Roadmap course on. And it's my gift to anyone who's attending the webinar. If you don't already have your copy, as Shivan said, she'll send it to you with the replay of the webinar. Hold on one second. I just have to move my notes around. There we go. Okay, so when you look at the algorithm, it can seem kind of overwhelming because it's got all these things on the sides, little words, and basically the center is the roadmap itself. And on the sides are clickable links that take you to the exact lesson and all the information you need for each step in within the SIBO Recovery Roadmap course. And what makes the algorithm such a great tool is that it covers every part of treating SIBO, and it's circular, so you can't get stuck or reach a dead end. This algorithm is the basis of how I work with all my one-on-one patients, and it's what I will teach you to do. So looking at the algorithm, you can see that one of the very first steps is testing, and that brings us to the first point, why your SIBO isn't getting better, point 1. Could be because you're not testing the right way. So testing for SIBO is a huge pitfall. And if you're not testing the right way, you're not going to have good results. First of all, and most importantly, don't skip testing for SIBO. Your test results aren't just positive or negative. A breath test will tell you exactly what type and what level of SIBO you have, and that information then guides your treatment. All 3 types of SIBO are based on gases, and all 3 types of gas require a different treatment. If your levels are really high, you might want to try a different type of treatment first. And it also gives us a good guide as to know how many rounds of treatment that you'll need, because typically we need more than 1 round. So we can predict the number of rounds when we see the test results, which is extremely helpful. So if your gas is high, we know you might need 2 or maybe 3 rounds, maybe more, and that sets up expectations and a timeline to help you get better faster. Don't get a stool test or an organic acids test and think that that diagnoses SIBO. Some practitioners will claim that they do, but they don't actually diagnose SIBO. They're very useful tests that I recommend for many other purposes, but they don't tell you if you have SIBO. And don't order or agree to the wrong kind of breath test. There isn't just one breath test. There's lactulose, there's glucose, there's a 2-hour test, a 3-hour test, and then there's different intervals of taking your breath samples, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. There are tests you do at home and tests you do at the lab. There's the new 3-gas test, which tests hydrogen sulfide as well as hydrogen and methane. And then, of course, there's the PrEP diet that you need to follow before the test and get accurate results. You want to to be able to get accurate results. So you want to make sure that you're taking the right test. And if you're limited in what test you're getting, like you can only get the glucose test, which is the circumstance many people are in, you want to know exactly what the limitations are with it and how to work with them. Plus, there is interpretation, which means figuring out the results. There are false positive results, false negatives, and very specific patterns to watch for. And this really matters because if you're not testing the right way, you might not be using the right treatment. That's the key. So you might keep on trying to treat SIBO when really the SIBO's gone and it's something else. Or the other way around, you assume the SIBO's gone and it really isn't, and you just need another round of treatment. And I know with everything I've just shared, it can sound like testing is an insurmountable hurdle, but it really isn't. In the course, I lay out exactly when to test, what test to use, what the results mean, and of course, when to retest, which is such an important issue because many people think they only need to test once to prove they have SIBO, but most people will actually do a few breath tests in the course of their treatment. So there are 3 lessons inside of the course covering when to suspect SIBO, all the ins and outs of testing, all the ins and outs, and test interpretation. Plus, there's also a bonus masterclass taught by Gary Stapleton, the founder of Aerodiagnostics Labs, which is one of the biggest SIBO breath testing labs and makers. So testing the wrong way can be a huge pitfall that holds people back from their healing. And I just wanted to mention Shivan. Shivan, do you want to pop in and just tell your little story of what happened to you?
Can you guys see me? Because there I am. Oh, hello. Oh, what happened to me?
Yeah, what happened to you with testing? Because I mean, this is like, I just hear so many patients that come to me. This has been their biggest problem, and we solve it pretty quickly. But what was your story with this?
I'm going to make it fast. I got the script for the test. I went to the University of South Florida. It's a 3-hour test, guys, and you have to do a prep and you have to do some fasting. I sat in the foyer of a gastroenterologist's office, you drink the solution and then you breathe into these test tubes. It was very awkward. I sat there for 3 hours. It was horrible. Now you can do stuff at home, which is great. But what you're really, I know, also referring to, Allison, is the results. I got the results back and it said positive, and then handwritten through it was the word NEG, negative. So guess what? It was positive, and someone wrote by hand and changed it. They did not know how to interpret the test. By the time you are through with these lessons, you will be able to tell if your test is positive. Of course, we're suggesting you work with your practitioners and stuff, but I lost 18 months due to a false negative. And think about everything I could have done in that time, Allison, to help move myself forward. Plus all the confusion, like, oh, I don't have SIBO. I feel like I'm a textbook case when I read the list of symptoms. Well, if it's not that, what in the world? Like, I felt totally lost. It was very upsetting.
And you know, this is the thing, so many people have this problem and more intricate, odd problems with testing. So this is pitfall number 1. Thanks for sharing that, Shivan. Okay, so let's move on to point number 2, why your SIBO isn't getting better, point number 2. And that's talking about diet. Diet is such a huge part of SIBO treatment, and it's also probably the most misunderstood in many ways. Because the SIBO diet is not one size fits all. It's not a list of allowed and not allowed foods only. It's just about, it's not, it's not just about cutting out, say, gluten or dairy or this specific food. Removing those two foods certainly helps many people. But a SIBO diet itself, this is sort of the key point, is not a main antibacterial treatment for SIBO. No matter what you eat, if you want to actually resolve SIBO, you need to reduce the bacteria back to normal levels, which diet doesn't seem to be able to do. It really just doesn't do that. Some practitioners might disagree with me, but when I'm saying this, it's based on my clinical experience and research experience and my clinical experience with many, many thousands of patients, all of which do SIBO diet. So diet really, the key is it's for symptom management. It's incredible at symptom management. It's for helping reduce constipation, diarrhea, bloating, and pain right now so that you can feel better. And in the longer term, diet can help prevent SIBO from coming back after you've successfully treated it. But it's just not a cure in and of itself, meaning that a person can't do a SIBO diet, feel their symptoms are better, and then go back to how they were eating before and have the bacterial overgrowth be eradicated. So once you know that, you can put diet in its proper place and use it as a tool for you and not just some horrible punishment that you have to follow. It's meant to really be empowering because honestly, it's really the best symptomatic relieving strategy that a patient has that they can do themselves if they have the right information of how to apply it. So just don't think that you have to cut out a ton of foods. A good SIBO diet does involve elimination and some elimination. That's how it works, by reducing carbohydrates, fermentable carbohydrates that the bacteria in the small intestine can ferment, can eat, which is fermentation, turns the foods into gas. But each person reacts differently to different foods. So you might need to cut out avocado, but someone else does just fine with avocado. Maybe you can eat a banana every day for breakfast, but that would really aggravate symptoms of other people that have SIBO. So it's very unique to the person. In fact, that's one of the hallmarks of SIBO, is how individualized the diet is. It's really one of the standout things with SIBO. And so I guess the really good point about that is that if you're on a SIBO diet, then right now, when you're very restricted, it very well may be that there are foods that you've cut out that you would tolerate just fine without them aggravating your symptoms. And then here's the other thing, the SIBO diet for each person will change over time. So you will be able to add in new foods. Don't just fall into the trap of reducing and reducing and reducing until you're only eating a few foods, like Shivan was talking happened to her. And then you think you can't tolerate anything, because it's a very rare patient where that's the truth. And then, this leaves you starving and miserable. And then you can't eat out, you can't travel very well. So what I want to teach you in the course is all the options for SIBO diets, including my dietary framework for building a customized SIBO diet using the green, yellow, and red column foods, which I call the SIBO specific food guide. And you'll learn the other diets too. And you'll learn how to test foods to see how you react. And my goal is for you to eat as many foods as you possibly can without any symptoms. And at the end of the day, after successful treatment, there might be just one or two foods that are not going to work for you, but that's going to be a huge relief for most people with SIBO if there's only one or two that they can't have. And some people don't even find that they can expand fully. Okay, so in the course, we have one lesson on diet that's a nice long chunk, plus we included my very in-depth diet masterclass, which covers all the aspects of diet. I think it's like multiple hours with many, many hours of Q&A with it, which the Q&As in there are really amazing for all the details it brings out. So all the Q&A sessions, and then we have SIBO nutritionist Riley Wimminger giving a class as well on diet. She's wonderful, one of my students also. Okay, let's move on to point number 3. Why your SIBO isn't getting better. Point number 3. You're not doing the treatment right. So that might sound obvious, maybe confrontational, I know, but I see it over and over. And it's certainly not the patient's fault, for God's sakes. There are 3 main antibacterial SIBO treatments: elemental diet, herbal antibiotics, and pharmaceutical antibiotics. They all work. They all work equally well. This is a huge question many people have. Which of the 3 treatments work best? They work equally well, but they work differently. They have different properties and characteristics, and we want to sort of individualize and pick which treatment goes for the case in front of us. So herbal antibiotics take longer, about 4 weeks on average, whereas elemental diet and pharmaceutical antibiotics take about 2 weeks for a round or a course of treatment. So if you take the herbals for 2 weeks instead of 4 and they don't work, that explains it. If you're using an elemental diet and you're not using the right amount of the formula, you're going to starve yourself along with the bacteria. And then what inevitably happens is you'll probably be forced to give up before it's been long, because you're just not getting enough calories to sustain you, because you do need to do it for 2 weeks. That's an awfully long time to go without, to just do like a water fast, basically. So if you're prescribed, this is another one, for pharmaceutical antibiotics, if you're prescribed too low of a dose of rifaximin, which happens more times than I probably could have counted with my patients who come to me, that's probably not going to work. But those are actually some of the most common issues. These are really common issues. So just an example with the rifaximin is there were dose finding studies that were occurring from around the year 2000 onward. And for a while, they thought that the best dose for SIBO was 1,200 milligrams. But then further dose studies were done, and it was raised to 1,600, or more practically 1,650 milligrams a day. This is in a day. But honest to goodness, so many gastroenterologists and doctors didn't keep up with the research and prescribed 1,200, and it's just not nearly as effective. In fact, Dr. Jolly has done further studies finding out you can go as high as 2,400, especially on repeat treatments. We don't typically do that because we find the 1,650 does a really good job. But so it's a huge problem. So many patients come in, they were given too low of a dose of rifaximin. So that's a really good example. And the stopping elemental diet too soon, not taking enough of the formula, huge thing. So another thing that people don't know is that not each one of these treatments, not every treatment, works for every person. If one fails, because this is very common, the best thing to do is to try another one, another type of treatment. So herbs don't work for everyone, and pharmaceutical antibiotics don't work for everyone, and neither does the elemental diet, believe it or not. But what I have seen is that one treatment out of the 3 always winds up working. So don't give up. And also, don't be afraid of the pharmaceutical antibiotics. I know there are a lot of fears around antibiotics, pharmaceutical antibiotics, but in the case of SIBO, and for the ones we use, they're one of the most effective and safe treatments that we have. And in the course, I explain exactly why the antibiotics used are different from what you get like for a sinus infection. And I also go over some of the potential negative side effects, so you get the whole picture unbiased. And at the same time, don't be afraid to try the herbal antibiotics. They work too. Not only do we know this from vast clinical experience before and after testing, tracking symptoms, we do have a study showing they're equally as effective as pharmaceutical antibiotics, which is wonderful. And the great thing is with herbal antibiotics, you can buy them yourself, no prescription needed. But don't think that means that they're completely safe, or even more importantly, completely effective in any dose or combination. You want to use the right combination of herbs in the right amount for your type of SIBO. If you just go to the store and buy a bottle of garlic and a bottle of oregano, you're not going to have the results you want, most likely. So that's why I put all of my exact protocols in the course for you to reference. The brands I like, the dosages I use with my patients, and how long to do it, case by case, and before you retest. So in the course, we have 7 lessons just on treatment. including specific treatments for hydrogen sulfide and what to expect during treatment. Plus, I've included my treatment and prevention masterclass, which has more than 4 hours of extra content, all on treatment and prevention.
Hold, please. Hold, please. Hold, please.
Yes.
Guys, this
Yes.
masterclass, I just have to say this, excuse me, but we loaded this course up with so much stuff, but it's very, very organized. So I know what it's like to buy a course and go, I'm overwhelmed. No, stop. It's so organized, and that's what so much of the feedback is. But I'm just telling you that we have also put in master classes that were standalone classes that are like, for those of us who are such SIBO nerds or, such on this quest for knowledge, they will make your mouth water. They're so damn good. So I can't wait for you to watch those. They are included. I'm sorry, I was just so excited. I had to say that. Goodbye.
Thank you, Shivan. It's very sweet. Okay, so when you're doing it all right, you're testing, you're using the diet, and you've got the right treatment for your type of gas, your type of SIBO, then SIBO isn't so overwhelming. It's way more manageable, and it's something you can deal with. You can feel better. You can get better. You will even have the tools you need to stay better, because I cover what to do after treatment to prevent SIBO from coming back to, and how to manage it if it does. Like if you have an incurable underlying cause of SIBO, and I also go over what are those potentially incurable underlying causes of SIBO and how to identify them. So in conclusion, I became a doctor because I wanted to help people. And I chose to specialize in SIBO because I saw so many people, myself included, hurting with this condition without clear guidance for how to get better. So that's what I'm trying to provide for you all. I hope this framework and the course and the information that I can share helps you get better. Okay, Shivan, back to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Siebecker. I so appreciate you. I'm lucky to be friends with Dr. Siebecker. She's my doctor first, and we've collaborated on so many projects. And our mutual mission is to get people well from SIBO and get their lives back. Like, that's not just like a slogan. It's a little snappy slogan, but that is not just words. It's our meaning. It's our mission. So I hope you were able to take some of this powerful set of truth bombs and be inspired. Maybe you already knew some of it. Maybe you're being reminded of some, or maybe you're like, wait a minute, what? It's a different kind of antibiotic? What? How can something be a different kind of antibiotic that's actually able to go up so high and that you can do multiple rounds of? So this is all explained. And we want you to feel better. When I said this is about hope, like, this is what makes us wake up in the morning. This is what turns us on. I literally don't need to do this because I have this other career and this other job, but I'm so on fire and excited about getting other people well, because I mean, my life was really not sustainable in a healthy, happy way. And it was difficult, and I didn't want anyone else to go through what I went through, just to keep that short and sweet. There is no other course like this. In fact, this is the course I wish I had had 5 years ago when I finally found out about SIBO and was trying to figure it out. I mean, I spent countless money and hours and hours, Dr. Google, middle of the night, crying, praying, podcasts, the whole bit. And there was nothing out there like this. So we want you to stop worrying about what you eat and how your clothes fit and where the nearest bathroom is, and also to have that quest hanging over your shoulders. I know what that's like, and it is not a good way to live. And it's very intimate. Like, you're not talking about this typically to people. And even if you did, they don't always get it. How could they? I'm glad they don't get it, because it means they're not suffering the way that you might be suffering, which I'm so sorry that you are suffering. We want you to get your life back. We want you to have the energy to play with your kids or your grandkids or other people's kids or whatever. Volunteer. What's your mission? Do you have that book in you? Do you have, all of these projects you want to accomplish? How about even just like getting the house clean? Man, my house was cluttered for a very long time because I just did not have the energy. It was just like, whatever, I have to go to bed now. Anyway, those days are behind me, thank goodness. We really want you to not have to think about SIBO anymore. And we want you to be empowered and understanding and learning that you can then turn into knowledge, wisdom, and useful next steps action. But you have to understand these basics, but also the intricacies. It's very complicated, but once you know it, you're like, it's not that complicated. I now know what to do next. So if a couple of questions have come in, will this help me to educate my doctor? Yes, it absolutely will. You will get your list of studies. There's even a lesson on what to do to talk to your doctor, and an approach to do that. You're not going to be flying blind. And yes, you may very well know more than your doctor. When I had a gastroenterologist that I needed for my scripts and stuff, he would thank me. Thank you so much for bringing this study. They just didn't teach me this in medical school. So thank you very much, sir, for being so humble and open and helping me. And we learned together. And now he gets a lot of very complicated cases that he kind of thanks me for. Anyway, yes, you will be able to do that. But you are in charge. You will be able to get your life back. So I want you to know that we've both done it. And we have now seen thousands of people do the same thing using this proven, tested framework that is all laid out step by step. And this is the exact method, as Dr. Siebecker said, that she has used with thousands of her patients. So the big question is, are you ready to go? Are you ready to do this yourself? If you are, I have some great news for you. Join the SIBO Recovery Roadmap course today. We've got a special price that's $100 off. And that is not $100 off like $1,500, okay? I know that there are some courses out there in the world that, make a lot of promises, and they're like $4,500, they're $1,900, they're $1,500, which frankly, this course is totally worth, but don't worry, it's not that expensive. And just to make sure that all your questions are answered, Dr. Siebecker has agreed to do a live Q&A call with anyone who does join this course this spring. And you'll have time to work through the course, and then you can either submit your questions and watch the recording later or attend live. And that alone is a humongous, humongous value. And while you're thinking about that, I want to share some success stories from real people who have used the course, and be sure to stick around because I have an exciting announcement coming up, like legit. So not just like fake exciting. Seriously, it's so good. We've never done it before, and you're the first, so hang on. So Joni says, I saw Shivan and Dr. Siebecker talk about Siebecker. Sorry, Allison. I'm sure that happens all the time. I saw Shivan and Dr. Siebecker talk about SIBO on another summit, and I felt a connection to them. I have been struggling with severe digestive issues for 5 years without getting proper testing and a diagnosis for SIBO. Now I'm on a treatment plan and look forward to getting rid of it, or at least getting my symptoms under management. The course is so well organized, and the roadmap makes so much sense and has a series of backup treatments if you don't get good results the first time. I plan to bring the roadmap algorithm to my gastroenterologist at my next appointment and tell her I'm following your program. Thanks, Joni. That lights us up. That is awesome. Here's another one. I already knew a fair amount about SIBO from patching things together. Oh, that's great. But what I really wanted was an organized approach, which is exactly what I got via the course. I feel solid that I know what does and doesn't work for me, and the course has been invaluable in clarifying treatment methods and the diet. Ashley says, I joined the course to get information on SIBO treatment. Everything SIBO is here. The amount of information is priceless. Thank you, Ashley. It is a labor of love. Karina says, I have a complicated case of SIBO, lack of resources, limited access to good health care, and joined the course to gain more knowledge on IBS SIBO, and thus feel empowered. I would recommend this course in a heartbeat for how easy and straightforward it is to navigate. I love everything about it, the intention, the effort, time, care, empathy that was put into creating it. Thank you so much. You're a blessing for being there for folks who struggle with these awful conditions. Thanks, Karina. And from Madalena, I joined to learn more about my condition since I've been suffering for so long and going to so many doctors who said they would help but didn't. It has great information and it helps me a lot to learn about how to manage my treatment and symptoms. I like that Dr. Siebecker is so passionate about her work and how well she explains everything. I'm grateful that I am on this course. We are too. And finally, I love the organization of the course page. I love how easy it was to go back and find things I had watched or read before. I love that there was a video and transcripts and use both again and again. I love the guest speakers. I love the Q&A with Dr. Siebecker and guest. I loved how fast and well I was attended to by customer service. And I love Shivan's emails with all the links that make it easy to find everything. I love that I can keep all the info and reference it for life since I keep learning and new things keep coming up from it as I progress on my SIBO journey. So we want you to be one of these success stories, to finally feel 100% confident in your treatment plan and in what to do next. So wherever you are in your SIBO journey, we want you to plug in on this proven roadmap and get you on your way to health. It works. It worked for me. It's worked for thousands of patients. And I'm just wondering if you're going to be one of them. Well, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining us for this session. I do hope to see you in the course and know that the SIBO Recovery Roadmap course was designed for you. It is a living, breathing course where you'll get updates periodically. If you are able to participate and get in there and really work the plan does work. And I know you'll be enriched by it. I know for me personally, this is exactly what I wish I had had 5 years ago, and that's why we created it. It is going to help if you work the plan, and you will now know exactly what to do next. So look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much and be well.